Alright guys, welcome to RC Mojo. This week we've got a nice big, if a little plain, box. There's no fancy art here, which given the cost of the model is probably a good thing. With any luck they've spent the money on the truck instead. Inside the box we don't really get that much. First out is the instruction pack, literally just a couple of fold out sheets. But what more do you really need? Next is a windscreen with a couple of tastefully applied decals over the air vents. All of that lot's just noise, of course. We've got the good bit next, the actual model. Some of you might already be getting a bit of an inkling as to what's under the shell, but we'll get to that in a minute. Under the truck is a large lump covered in bubble wrap. Inside is a cheap and hopefully cheerful 2.5 GHz radio. I'm not expecting much, but it does at least have 3 channels rather than just the 2. The last item we get is a wall wart charger. It would take a good 4 or 5 hours to charge the included 2000 mAh battery, so it's going to go straight in the bin. We will use a proper hobby charger. They're a lot quicker and actually charge the batteries properly. The windscreen looks like it's easy to fit. There's 2 bits on the outside that sit in holes in the body, and a central post that goes through a hole in the middle and uses a body clip to stop it falling out. We're going to have to take the body off the chassis to get at it though. There's just the 4 standard body clips to hold it on, pop them out and we can lift the body from the chassis and clip in the windscreen's clip. Right, now for the good bit, the chassis. Anyone in the UK will probably have seen the FTX Outback 2 while browsing around. It's a 1/10 scale truck that seems to use a lot of slightly undersized parts. They're also sold as the Abysma CR2.4 and the RGT RC4. It wouldn't surprise me if there's some others too, and there's really not that much to choose between them. This particular variant is an RGT military scale vehicle. It's got the full-size battery we see on the Abysma chassis, rather than the smaller pack that the FTX has. It comes with this 6L9 pack. It's not going to be great, and I can't see it lasting a particularly long time. It's probably going to get renegated to a Traxxas Nitro starter battery rather quickly. At the back of the chassis we've got a Hobbywing WP1040, a nice basic ESC, and there's an off-brand receiver. In the middle things take a turn for the weird for those who haven't seen one of these trucks up close. The motor is a 390 size rather than the 540 we're more used to. It also has a dinky gearbox to match. Good news though, there's a couple of 3D printable centre skids to mount gearboxes like the one from the Maverick Scout if we need to go bigger later. As you might imagine, some of the build is a bit that'll do. The motor wires are far too long, so they've zip tied them up inside the chassis. The nice steel conductive chassis with rough edges. One of them even hangs down ready to get caught on something while we're driving. The bumpers have some nice LEDs in them, which is nice. 3 of them even have lenses on the front. It would have been nice to have all 4, but my future plans involve different bumpers, so I'm going to let it pass. Before we actually test it all, I want to see if a 2S hardcase LiPo is going to fit. They're just slightly bigger than the old 6L9 which can quite often cause problems. Yeah, as I thought, they're a couple of millimeters too long to fit between the plastic ends of the battery tray. You can keep it in place with a Velcro, but it's not exactly neat. We'll either have to remove the offending plastic bits, or maybe 3D print some slightly bigger ones before going LiPo. Before we actually drive the truck, we're going to need to do something with that antenna. The truck comes with a bit of antenna tube, which is good, but I've looked all along the chassis and there's nowhere to stick it. I even resorted to the instruction manual, and while there's some nice exploded diagrams and part numbers for all the bits, there's no sign of the antenna tube. Incidentally, in the parts list are the bodies used on the FTX Outback and the Abysma CR2.4, along with the Jeep on the left and some sort of pickup I've not come across before. Now I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zip tie the tube to the tower on the rear right of the chassis. It's going to keep the antenna out of harm's way quite nicely. The only downside is it's close to being parallel to the chassis rail, but I'm sure it's going to be good enough for now. We can reinstall the NIMI back on the chassis. I've charged it on an IDST Q6 charger and it seems to be quite healthy. The transmitter needs 4 AA's. It's good that the old 8-cell transmitters are all but gone these days. A lot of them used to burn through batteries far too quickly. I've got the truck up on a box just in case it starts up with some throttle. It's rare, but it can happen. Transmitter on. It's got a nice little LED under the cover as a power indicator. Now we can plug in the battery. It's got a Tamiya connector at the moment, so we're going to need to change that for an XT60. Switch on the ESC. and it beeps, so that must be good. The steering works. And the throttle works too. It doesn't sound as weedy as I was expecting. Maybe that little motor might just do the job, for now at least. Looks like the lights are all working too. They're not controlled by anything, they're just on all the time. But it's a nice little extra. The body can go back on now with its 4 body clips. It's a shame they're silver rather than black. They do kind of stand out a bit. I think there's one more thing before we go out on a quick test run. I've got to remove those RGT decals from the vents under the windscreen. They wouldn't be so bad if they were actually the right size. They just really let the whole body down. Luckily though, they do peel off very easily. So that's about it for the Grand Tour. It's a small Chinese ready-to-run truck. There's not really much else you can say. The main reason I bought it was the suspension. Almost all the other trucks available have 4-link or similar suspension rather than the leaf springs. Yeah, you can convert them, but it's a bit of a faff. This truck has roughly all the right proportions and the leaf spring suspension, which hopefully will be ideal for my planned project. The idea is to 3D print a body for it. There's a Series 2 Land Rover pickup on Thingiverse, I'll pop a link in the description, that I've used as a base, and I'm working on a remix that, while far from perfect, just makes it look a little bit closer to the original. As I type this, I've already printed most of the front end, and it's coming out a bit on the heavy side. I'm going to keep going though, and see how it turns out. We'll probably have to do a second version with lots of weight reduction, but it should be fun either way. That's it for this week then, so as always, thanks for watching. Like if you liked, subscribe if you want to see more, not forgetting the little bell button, and if there's something on your mind, leave a comment. Now, I do read them as they come into my email, even if it does take me an extraordinarily long time to reply. Bye guys!